The SCP universe is home to many different monsters, and of course, some of those monsters are based on the legends and folklore of our real world. Today, we'll be taking a look at some of these cryptid SCPs. Welcome to the Dark Layer. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with cryptids, they're supposed unidentifiable creatures of our real world, the most commonly known being Bigfoot, who is also the most popular in the SCP universe. SCP-1000, also known as Bigfoot, is a Keter anomaly that resembles a large, hairy, nocturnal ape, slightly taller than the average human, weighing approximately 3 times as much and possessing the intelligence of a chimpanzee. About 10 to 15,000 years ago, SCP-1000 were quite common. However, they contracted a disease that wiped out at least 95% of their population. While the SCP-1000 population today has built up an immunity, humanity has not. The disease causes those who see SCP-1000 to have a 2% chance of being killed instantly by simply anomalously shutting down their brain. The chance of death rises the longer you look at them. Sounds scary. However, most of that is a lie told to Foundation employees below clearance level 3. The truth is, there is no disease that kills you for looking at them, and SCP-1000 doesn't have intelligence equal to a chimp. No, they have human level intelligence. 10 to 15,000 years ago, SCP-1000 once were the dominant species on Earth. They had organic technologies that far outclass our technology today, while the human population was merely a small group of hunter-gatherers. But they were nearly wiped out by humanity. However, how it happened is somewhat unclear. One story says a trickster god showed us favor, but somehow in the middle of the day, while they slept, humanity managed to take control of their weapons and use them to destroy their cities. They used one of those weapons to lower the intelligence of the remaining SCP-1000 population. Humanity then turned its weapons onto itself, and apart from a select few, they erased all the memories of SCP-1000 from their minds and reverted to being hunter-gatherers. However, the SCP-1000 population has somehow regained their intelligence, or perhaps they never lost it in the first place. We are left with one final message received by the Foundation from the SCP-1000 population. We forgive you, given choice for now, not forever. Let us back in. SCP-1000 adopts the rather boring concept of a Bigfoot and turns it into a rather interesting story, even though it's a little goofy for my taste. SCP-3934. Classification: Safe. SCP-3934, the Loch Ness Monster, is a pygmy plesiosaur, only half the size of the real dinosaur. They were anomalously created by Marshall Carter and Dark to be sold to anomalous collectors and the rich. MC and D also took several photos and leaked them to the public, including the most famous example, the 1934 surgeon's photo. The first instance was recovered in the home of Joseph Cadwell, a noted British financier and philanthropist. SCP-3934 often die in captivity, as even though they are pygmy plesiosaurs, they still grow too large to be cared for by most buyers. SCP-2901. Classification: Euclid. SCP-2901 is an anomaly that heavily resembles the cryptid the Mothman. That's because that's exactly what it is. Kinda. SCP-2901, in its current form, is a species of nocturnal carnivorous scavengers of limited intelligence. If you ever find yourself face to face with one, you should make yourself look bigger and throw stuff at it to scare it off, and never run, as that could provoke a chase. Basically, treat it like a black bear. They can move through space time freely, allowing them to float, fly, and even teleport, where firearms are still effective at stopping the creatures. This anomaly was first spotted by the public in West Virginia shortly before the Silver Bridge collapsed. Ever since, the anomaly has been spotted at several national tragedies. But the truth about SCP 2901 is that when the Foundation first discovered the anomaly, it was highly volatile and destructive Keter class anomaly. In an incident, the anomaly managed to breach containment and escape to the Appalachia region of the southern United States. SCP 2901 began gradually condensing into a singular manifestation the more it was exposed to humans. The Foundation discovered that the entity formed into whatever humans in the area thought it to be. The Foundation tried to isolate its existence. However, as people lost faith in the creature, it began to devolve back to its previously highly dangerous state. So, they perpetuated the Mothman myth to keep the anomaly somewhat contained. Essentially, SCP 2901 molds itself into whatever people believe it to be. And once the Foundation discovered this, they used this to control and weaken the anomaly, turning it from a potential world ending threat to just another cryptid. SCP 323 The Wendigo Skull. Object Class Euclid. SCP 323 is a deer skull that affects the human psyche. Humans within a 15-meter radius of SCP 323 will experience cannibalistic thoughts. Within 1 hour of exposure, nearly 75% of all subjects will place the skull onto their heads. Once on their heads, the new SCP 323-1 will experience rapid starvation, consuming nearly all fat and muscle of the subject. They will lose hair as well as pigmentation, becoming incredibly pale. However, despite the loss of fat and muscle, they are much stronger and have a greater tolerance for pain. However, they are still just as susceptible to physical harm. SCP 323-1 will also gain an incredible appetite and will begin to actively hunt for its only food source, human meat. However, if it can't find any, it will starve within an hour. SCP-323 was first discovered on January 9, 1997, in the Bittern Lake Reserve, part of, forgive my pronunciation, the Lake Larong First Nation, Saskatchewan, Canada. A small unregistered community had been sustaining an active SCP-3231 instance by routinely murdering individuals and leaving them out for an quote-unquote appeasement. SCP-6448, the Knot Deer. Class Keter. 6448 is a seemingly normal deer at first glance. However, looking more closely at it will reveal several oddities, such as forward-facing eyes like that of a predator, jerky movements, and the tendency to stand on its hind legs, among other oddities. They tend to camouflage themselves amongst real deer and are presumed to have at least human-level intelligence. SCP-6448 are known to observe, stalk, and pursue humans, often for hours or days. This includes following humans to and from their homes, where they will proceed to steal belongings, weapons, and food. Very rarely will SCP-6448 attack victims while they are indoors. SCP-6448 are native to the Appalachia region of the United States and have been reported by the locals for years before the Foundation discovered them in 1980. SCP-6448 are most commonly encountered in deep woodland, particularly at night or dusk when a person is alone. Any form of direct acknowledgement of SCP-6448's anomalous traits in these situations will always result in the victim's termination. In such situations, personnel are to engage the Severus Protocol. The Severus Protocol. If you notice a deer that seems off, look away and ignore it. If it knows that you've noticed it, it's too late. If you hear your name whistling or something else in the woods calling for you, don't acknowledge it. Never acknowledge it exists. Don't respond. Don't go looking for it. Don't call back to it. If you're walking at night and you feel something breathing on your neck or whispering behind you, the key to your safety is pretending that everything is normal. Your survival depends on your ignorance. On November 29th, 2019, the Foundation successfully captured an instance of SCP-6448. Here is the log between a Foundation researcher, Dr. Oz, and SCP-6448, which I will read verbatim. Researcher Oz. Greetings, SCP-6448. The instance suddenly bolts upright and stares at the intercom. Researcher Oz. Can you understand me? We've seen your genus speak English just fine in the past. The instance does not respond. Begins licking its arm. Researcher Oz. Please, we know your secret. The instance pauses. Researcher Oz. Admittedly, it wasn't exactly well kept. If you just look at yourself for more than a few seconds, it is very clear that you're not normal. The instance is stood facing away from the window. Its neck swivels 180 degrees, visibly breaking multiple vertebrae, as there is an audible crack. It does not blink. Researcher Oz to containment staff. I thought you said this was one way. It is? The instant's gaze remains locked on Researcher Oz. Researcher Oz. Are you something imitating a deer? It is clear that, if so, you possess basic anatomical knowledge on them, though details are faulty. In fact, a better question would be, how, assuming you're not what you pretend to be? The instance opens its mouth, which contains abnormally sharp teeth. Its jaw moves in a manner that seems to imitate speech. However, no intelligible dialect is heard, rather a sound similar to gagging or choking is audible. Researcher Oz. Shall we move on? What I'm more concerned with here is why you take our people. Is it to settle a vendetta? For food? Spite, maybe? The instance blinks for the first time in the interview. The movement is noticeably forced. Researcher Oz. Responding is mandatory. The instance shows no reaction. Researcher Oz. Sternly. If you will not comply, maybe you'd like to see our brand new containment Researcher Oz pauses. SCP-6448. Research. The instance is speaking a distorted version of Oz's own voice. Researcher Oz. Research? What kind of SCP-6448? July 7th, 1947. The instance suddenly rams the 20-inch thick one-way glass, cracking it slightly. Researcher Oz stumbles backwards. The instance begins to collapse. It contorts violently and begins screaming. Its abdomen bulges and withers. Researcher Oz, get the stags in here right now. A black viscous tendril mass erupts out of the instance's side. It leaps and squirms around the cell before shattering the view window. The remaining carcass is entirely hollow. Site 44 breach system. Containment breach detected. All personnel report to the nearest safe room. Containment Sector 4. Blast doors will be sealed in 10 seconds. The tenderless mass swiftly maneuvers outside of Sector 4 in seconds, clearing the lockdown area. It travels in the direction of the main exit. Site 4-4 breach system. Full site lockdown initiated. Locking main exit in 5 seconds. The mass clears the main desk. It shatters the glass on the front exit and disappears into the outside shrubbery. End log. The date, July 7th, 1947, is most likely referring to the Roswell incident, which is a conspiracy theory that a UFO crashed in New Mexico and the US government hid the crash from the public. But how it relates to SCP-6448 is currently unknown. That was just a summary of some cryptid SCPs, as I am sure there are at least a couple I missed. If you enjoyed the video, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel. If you don't like it, then let me know in the comments what I should do differently. If you want a more in-depth review of these SCPs, I suggest going to the wiki and reading them for yourself. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Good night.